Good morning. It's January 23rd, Wednesday. And Lilo and Robin Lilo's on BART coming this way, and Robin is going to pick her up, and we're going to start the big hustle in this room. I don't have my cupboards yet, but I don't think that's going to slow us down at all. I do want to say that I didn't have to bury the saint. We found the remote control. I knew you guys were really stressing over that for us. So let's see. I always, kill the first couple of minutes with just stories, but last night it was great drama in Livermore, California. Lennox and her brother and Jerry came home, and there was a birdie on their front porch that was very distressed. I believe a finch, and it was a baby. Well, it was a baby that was starting to get his adult feathers. And Jerry goes, I don't know what to do with this thing. And Lennox, because of Robin, Dr. Robin, brought the birdie inside, protected the birdie from the cats. And Robin came over last night to their house, and I was already in bed. She brought Jumpy home. That's the name. And then Jumpy got put in the aviary with her other birds with a nice hot little heat lamp. And Robin let it go this morning, and it flew off into the bushes. So we're going to hold a really good thought for Jumpy. And I'm just ever so grateful for Robin into my life for so many things, but she has an understanding for children and pets that is just completely fabulous. Let's see. Here we have, this whole room is turned upside down and inside out. All the art is off the wall. And there's this one picture that I bought in Door County, Wisconsin. People, it's a batik, and it's by Mary Jo Scandon, and it's a batik. Let me blow it up, because the saying on it is hilarious. Well, I can't blow it up, so let me go get it. You can see words on it, and the words read as this. And the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and all your household. That's in Genesis, And the Lord said to Noah's wife, Joan of Arc, make sure that this gets done. I love this batik. I believe she does it with wax resist, and I probably got it 25 years ago. And it's on a wooden frame like how Mary Mecco is. And I shored that up because that was falling apart, and I'm thinking I know exactly where it's going to go. Lilo and Robin are all about getting me organized, and I'm all about getting my art hung back up. So this is one of the stations that's being built right now, and Bill was going to bring it over this morning, but that fell apart. That was a table that my dad made for me off of just a door. And he has one unit that's going to go in there. That will be delivered tomorrow morning. And then over on the wall there is where the big built-ins are going to go. And the problem with those built-ins are that he went to put laminate on the top and he goofed it up. And so then we had to wait for new laminate, blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, there's no reason that Lilo and Robin and I can get going on this. There's no reason. Okay, I got this in my mailbox this morning, and I'm not here promoting it specifically, though I will be, but I'm thinking that this is a really cool idea that the West Contra Costa Guild is doing. Guilds have to make some money because we haven't been able to have shows, programs, not all members have renewed. So our opportunity quilts. So I thought this was brilliant, okay? I think this is something you could do with your guild. Basically, a lot of us in COVID have cleaned out a lot of our stuff, and why not have a bazaar? Like how usually in quilt shows they've got the country store at the end, at least that's what ours call it. heck, if something like this were up, I'd go check it out, and I'd get rid of stuff too. So I think that this is really swell, and I appreciate the guild getting it to me so that it was like spark an idea. You know, that's how we get on these guys. Okay, so Frozen on Facebook. Brenda, refresh it. Okay, so what is next here? Oh, let me answer a couple questions. First of all, Katie, I talked about I call it the Shelley Tobish finished applique stitch, and all I know is my Bernina. And so Katie got hold of me, and she has a FOF Creative Sensation. She said it's several years old, but it has a stitch center that you can get in there and muck around with it. So, you know, don't be afraid to get in there and play a little bit and just be real gentle. And if you missed it on Monday, I'd go back and watch it. And I apologize. John kept running in. I lectured you on whenever there's a D foot on the Bernina to engage the dual feed. I didn't. And I said, yes, I have. And you guys had my back. So thank you. And that's why the stitches were kind of CRAP, but I was pretending like they were beautiful. So that was my bad. My bad. I did send off some more Bernina coupons today, and you'll be getting them. And it's so funny because I am enabling you to go buy a Bernina. And Shelley Tobish started in on me yesterday, as some of you enabling me to go buy my 500. Hey, we are all in this together, right? Let's see. Then here is Becky wrote me a couple questions. And she said, first of all, she loves her QS rulers. I've quilted for 30 years and I've accumulated a lot of rulers. Yours are the best. I'm replacing my others as needed. Yeah, if you haven't treated yourself to one, just get one and you'll see what everybody's talking about. Okay, 80, para cotton poly. Did I hear you say that you used it for bobbins only? I used it through the needle and had to put it in a thread holder. It would unwind faster than I was sewing. You know, I do. Okay, I always have it in my bobbin, always, always. But if I'm doing like applique, like behind me, and I want to use colors, like not the invisible thread, I will use it on top, and it hides like silk. I will also bind quilts with it because it's super strong. It's like silk, but it's a fraction of the cost. And that brought me to another question about the parachute that somebody asked me, and I think I wrote back to you. Now this is the one where I had to call Kay Brooks, okay? Becky asked, Quilter Select Perfect Cotton Batting. Is this good for stabilizer for machine applique, or should I go to a fusible? What do you recommend? I used the batting for a wall quilt, which turned out beautifully. She did not wash. Okay, well, first of all, it is a beautiful batting. In my world, batting is for batting. It's not for a stabilizer. But I called Kay Brooks, and she said people are using it when they're using their embroidery machine for a stabilizer. And she would recommend that if you're doing something with a ton of stitches, you might want to go over to the RNK embroidery batting. It's better for that process than the QS stuff. So if you're talking about hooping it and doing your bit, you might want to look at that. And now I'm talking about stuff I really don't know about, okay? So I'm just swinging at it. If I'm doing machine applique and the stitches start to pool, meaning they come up, you know, like that, I will do something called tearaway, Quilter Select Tearaway, to help stabilize it. But usually, like if I'm using the Rosa Rojas technique, where it's got the product in the petals and in the blades and all that, I don't have to use anything. So it's strong enough, it works. And also, if I'm doing raw edge applique, there's a product in there, and so everything seems to behave fairly well. That's my 10 cents. I am not an expert on this. Lastly, did I hear you say that you use King Tut for hand quilting? Yes. I do. I use King Tut. There's tons of hand quilting threads to me. Some are way too heavy. King Tut is by Superior. There's a myriad of ways you can use it, but it has seemed to work very nicely with my hand quilting. Oh, I miss hand quilting. I have not done it in forever. What kind of thread do I use again, Sherry? On my bobbin, I use Quilters Select 80 weight. It is a polyester thread that plays and acts like silk. On the top, if I'm piecing, I use my Quilters Select 60 weight, which is thicker than the 80 weight. It's a poly core with cotton on the outside. All right. You could also, if you don't have it, you should try it. You'll love it. It's finer. But you could also use, your 50 or whatever. But the finer the threads I can get, the happier I am. In the olden days, before I had my 80 weight, I used a 60 poly in my bobbin, and now it would just be that much thinner. All right. Okay, good deal. Katie, Becky, we've got it. Yay. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. And Robin and Lila will not make it here by the time this vidcast is over, but I will be here Friday. Who knows what's going to be going on in here? They are so good to be coming. Lilo landed in Oakland at 8:30 this morning. We got to get her a Starbucks, right? So I want to talk a little bit about batting. I am not an expert on it like Kay Brooks is, but I'm just going to go through some generalities. Generalities? Yeah. Okay, first of all, and I'm going to go through what I have used, and that's what I can speak to, okay? In the olden days, when all I did was hand quilt, basically you had your choice of 100% cotton. It was like Mountain Biz Blue or something, 100% cotton. And then you had a choice of polyester. So the thing you have to understand about, and I'm talking in the olden days, polyester is the gift that keeps on giving. So if a quilt started to beard, it would come through and it would keep going because the poly wouldn't break. All right. So people naturally liked the cotton, but back in the olden days, the cotton was really hard to quilt through, really hard. Batting has changed and gotten so sophisticated, it's amazing. And really, in the old fashioned days, Mountain Mist didn't even have a light poly. I would take a regular poly Mountain Mist and split it because I like the flatness of antique quilts a lot. I like the flatness. But then batting started to kind of come a long ways. Oh, let me say this for hand quilting too. Back in the day, I think it was Hobbs, I'm not sure, you could get black batting. So like, let's say I've done quilts that were primarily black, and so I don't want the white batting to come through. And so I called Carolee at the Cotton Patch, my buddy in Lafayette, California, and I said, can you get the black batting? And she said, no, I won't carry it, because if you put black batting in there, and somebody happened, let's say it's primarily a black quilt, but let's say like there's little yellow stars or something like that, it will dull down that yellow. Okay, so no. But then we go to that you have 80-20 cotton. It is 80% cotton, 20% poly. Now, Quilters Select has that, all right? And in the olden days, it wasn't as easy to hand quilt through as the poly, but it gave you the look and feel of cotton. There's a drapeability about the cotton that is just lovely, just absolutely lovely. Now, what would I use the 80-20 for now? And I think we call it soft blend. Actually, this is an old flyer. I don't know. Basically, okay, Quilter Select has wool, which I'll speak to. It has an 80-20 and 100%. And so when you might want to use a soft, some sort of blend, an 80-20 might be number one if you're going to hand quilt. Number two, if it's going to be highly stitched or highly embellished, it just makes it better, okay? It just makes it better. If it's just going to be normal machine quilting, you might want to do 100%. Okay, so my friend Paula Reed, I don't know if she's still doing it. I don't think she is. I think she's retired, but she would quilt for people, and her go-to machine, her go-to was Warm and Natural. And she would always send me the remains of the batting that I had purchased for her to do. And so the reason she liked Warm and Natural for machine quilting was because she was doing other people's quilts, and to say it, sometimes the tops were less than perfect, and it helped whip the whole thing together. Now, that's great, and she probably had to use it on mine, but I went to hand quilt Warm and Natural. Don't do it. It's impossible because it is heavier, etc. So if you have a wonky quilt, you might want to look that way. But another negative, and I'm not talking down on anything. It's like, what pair of scissors are you going to use? Well, it depends what job you're going to do. What thread are you going to use? So it depends what job you're going to do. For me, I had to go to a much lighter bat because when I used to travel with all my quilts, note password, it's heavy. It's super heavy. So when a quilt, if a quilt, you can only get 50 pounds in a suitcase, people, and or you can only want to pay FedEx so much to ship your stuff. So that is my warning on Warm and Natural. But if you have a wonky quilt that needs to be beat into submission, So, okay, cotton poly for things that are highly embellished, highly quilted, regular cotton if it's a normal type quilt, and then there's wool. Wool, in the olden days, wool was so expensive, so expensive. And now it's become more reasonable. And if you are hand quilting, it works like butter. Oh, it is fabulous. Now, I did machine quilting straight line with wool, and it didn't give me the stability of cotton. I feel like I'm talking in okay, I'm going to scroll back on these before I go to the next part, okay? The questions. Where was I? That's the problem. Oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, I was quilting a quilt, straight line on the diagonal on wool, and it was not a wonderful experience. So I know a lot of people also combine the wool with the, okay, why wasn't it a great experience? It shifted. It was too loose, okay? But I know some of the big guns that win prizes at Houston do wool on top of a very thin cotton batting, okay? Haven't gone that far. Don't know how to do it. But one thing I want to say for sure, I have not done bamboo yet, so I can't speak to it. I'm just speaking. I haven't done silk yet, though I've heard it's wonderful, so I can't speak to it. I'm just telling you my observations, okay? Whatever you do, read the instructions on the packet. Whatever you do, because some will tell you to pre-wash, some will tell you not to, some will tell you X, Y, Z. Read the instructions. And the other thing that I am dead serious about is that do not go to a chain store and look for bargain batting on a roll. That's how it used to come. There are many fine brands that come on a roll. I want to be very clear. There are many fine brands that do that. But the problem with the cheaper stuff is that it's inconsistent. And it's got this stuff on top that's like you could get, splinters from. So don't cheap out on your batting. We were at a craft show for not consumers, but for buyers. And I forget who I was there with. But anyways, right next to us was a batting booth. And they hated me because they knew I was putting out this message. Don't use crap, okay? It's about that simple. Just don't do it. It's like there's not that many things you really need in quilting, but when it gets down to the fine details, like for instance, well, just don't use like your fabric, use good stuff. Batting, use good stuff. Thread, use good stuff. Sewing machine, use good stuff. So that's all that, all right? So what would I do with this quilt behind me? I would choose probably 100% cotton or an 80-20. And I'll talk in a moment about how I would quilt it. I'm starting to think now I might quilt it, to tell you the truth. I've hung on to it long enough, and I love this quilt, but I'm a little bit befuddled with how I'm going to do the area with the spools. Okay, so let me go back. I get bamboo from my local quilt shop. Raw silk is defined, but have not been able to get it anywhere. Ruth, you probably have to look online. Okay, more bamboo lovers, more bamboo lovers. Bamboo. Petals, it seems quite heavy. I don't plan. Okay, when I use a Quilter Select Print and Piece Fuse Light for both layers of petals, it seems quite heavy. I don't plan to wash the quilt anytime soon. I did it, and it'll be fine. Because it is not a paper, it is a fiber. We're talking print and piece fuse light. It will break down. It will break down. So don't worry about it. It'll get softer and softer. Also, I got an email from somebody who was having questions about fuse, the powder fuse stuff of ours. And I want you to get back to me so Kay can call you and question you, and so we can make sure you're doing everything right. My fuse powder will not work well on batiks unless the batiks have been washed, because there's a wax on it. I just learned this yesterday. And also, it should work with bamboo batting, which you were using because it's denser, but wool batting is just going to go through too. So I love our Quilter Select Fuse Light because when I'm basting, I don't want the fumes and all that stuff. But there are some, well, whenever you're going to use a foreign product, test it, okay? Just test it. So let me go down here. Question? Free fuse. What am I saying? Oh, God. Free fuse is what I mean to be saying. Free fuse. Free fuse. I do love wool batting, and I will say this about ours. It doesn't have any additives in it. It's about as pure as you can get. So, yay. All right. I think let's see. Betty says, I machine quilt and put wool batting on top of, I love you guys, of a thin layer of either 80-20 poly. It's 80 cotton, 20 poly, which holds it square and stable and quilts like a dream for my show quilts. Okay, that's it. That's why people are doing that. And I didn't know that till now. I had to call Jeannie Delpit about something on my Bernina yesterday. And I still learned something new about her. And I'm not confident enough to share with you what she said. I'm not ready to go there, but I didn't know it had this capability. So speaking of that, I think I have a very sick sense of humor. Not I think, I know. I found something this morning, and I put it on my Facebook page. I was laughing out loud. And it's these three guys. It's an hour show. I just watched the first segment, and the segment's called Will It So? John was on a call, and he can be going, wah, wah, screaming. So if you think I'm sick in the head, sorry, it's who you're playing with. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I do enter with wool. You guys have really good stuff here. I would commission all of you to sit and read these comments here. All right. So here are some of my general rules. First of all, if I go to my machine quilter, Diane Schweikert, who's around the corner, I will let her have first shot at what she thinks, because she does hundreds and hundreds of quilts. Let me get a sip here so I don't choke. But some of my general rules are this. I like more quilting than less. Oh my gosh, and I forgot to show you guys some show and tell, so we'll do that after this. I just rolled into this. Because one of the quilts reminded me of what I'm talking about. I like more quilting than less, But that said, it's because my quilts were on the wall. We had somebody on thequiltshow.com in a show. I'm just came to my mind, and they said the first thing you do when you look at a quilt is you assess whether it's going to be loved and snuggled under or whether it's going to be on the wall. If it's going to be on the wall, you can afford yourself to do a lot more quilting on it than if it's going to be a snuggle quilt. But that said, that takes us back to the batting, and you want to find out how densely or not densely does it need to be quilted, and you have to follow those instructions. Okay, so this one will be a wall quilt, so it can afford more quilting. The other simple rule, I just have these guidelines for me, is that I want to mix soft curvy lines with straight lines. That may be hard in this case. Well, maybe not, because I just had an idea while I'm looking at it. But whatever I do, I want the same amount of quilting density in both areas. I don't want one area to be all puffy wuffy and the other tightly quilted. That sometimes you'll see where they'll do puffy wuffy and then they do the stippling. You're like, wait, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Now, Cindy Needham's is an exception to the rule. Remember, there's always exceptions to the rule. So I want equal amount of quilting. I like soft and curvy lines mixed with geometric lines. I also like it when the thread blends in. And that goes back to my years of hand quilting and my nod to Amish quilts, where they would always use black. Their fabrics were fairly dark. I like my quilting to be a suggestion of an idea. All right, so let's take a look at this here. Something came to me the other day with this. One thing I will do is if I have a highly applique border, I might think of putting something behind it, like a cable, okay? Because you could still see it, and then when you come around here, you would really see it. Then I thought of maybe feathers, and I think feathers might be too ambitious for this border. I just do. I want to lay it underneath those flowers. But then I can't just leave those flowers hanging there, can I? No, I want to get in there and maybe do some quilting here to bring it down. Now, in here, I don't know what to do. If I were to do a really elaborate border out here, I would do something probably geometric in here, but it's not going to work in this quilt. I don't think so, because there's such a beautiful movement in the whole thing. I don't think that's a good idea. So I am ruminating on this, but those are the things that I think about when I go to quilt the quilt. Okay, and I realize I'm telling you nothing, but I'm telling you some things here. So you really do need to put your quilt on the wall and ruminate on it, okay? I'm not one to want to just go ahead, give it to a long armor and just say, put a cat in or something like that. I'd like to give it a little bit more consideration, but I know for some people, they're perfectly happy with that. This is the one subject matter, and back in the spring of last year, or I don't know when, maybe this fall, I did a little unit free here on quilting, and you might want to go check it out. Okay. One other thing I want to say is, as you prepare the back for this, if you have a lot of white, like I do, make sure the backing is very, very light, because it can ghost through. It absolutely can ghost through. All right. So let me look at some questions. What about the difference? I like grays over thread. I'm going to do for quilting on this, Mary. I would not have even thought of silver, but I'll probably do white. I really, really want to see the relief of the quilting. But that is my personal my personal preference. You can do whatever you want. It's your quilt. I don't know why I'm not in sync. Brenda. Sorry. Oh, Auntie Anne, haha, that's the So Yeah show. They are great. Oh, you guys, I am telling you right now, I was screaming. I was laughing so hard. If you're not on Facebook, go to So Yeah show. And I think it was the sixth episode, and it was Will It Still Sew or something like that. Oh my gosh, couldn't believe it. Okay, so. Do I use silk thread? Yeah, I do. I use it for when I'm doing Cindy Needham's really fine work. I will put silk in the top, my 80 weight in the bobbin because I want it so fine. I mean, I use 100 weight kimono silk for that machine quilting. All right. Let me see. Okay. White binding fabric. Binding. That's Monday. I have an idea on Monday, and I'm gonna share that with you. I don't think I'm gonna do white. I think I'm going to be doing a multicolored binding, but we'll see. I mean, well, obviously you won't see because it won't be quilted by then. Yes, John.
Are you going to use any colors in your quilting?
Yeah, I'm not going to use colors in my quilting thread. I'm not. Okay, but now that is an interesting thing now that I'm looking at this behind me. This is like if you take a picture of your quilt and then look at it. Maybe in the spool area, I might use a gray, a light gray. But then in the white area, oh, lighting just happened. And then in the white area, white. Yeah, this one's a little tricky to me. And I really like this quilt. I don't want to goof it up at all.
So if you were going to make those pinwheels move, do you...
So John's wanting to know if I'm going to make the pinwheels move. They already are moving, I think.
What? But I mean, in the quilting?
I don't know, John. I don't know. John's in here now assessing my quilt. Yeah. So on Monday, we'll do binding. Friday, my two partners in crime will be here. Robin will not get on camera. Lilo very well might. But also we did a thing with Connie Fanders, and it's how, if you're into embroidery, how to utilize your machine to have it quilt for you. Yay, who doesn't want that? And she had some really great examples. I was really impressed. So I like that for the binding. The other thing you could do, well, no, we're gonna do that Monday. I'm not gonna give it away. So let's see, I talked about the backing, do it light. Just the main thing is do equal amount of quilting on the surface. Okay, so here we go. West Contra Costa. Okay, so here is Carla's, and she sent this to me. This is just a riot. I love it. To me, it's happiness served on a platter. And you're not going to want to hear this, Carla. I might even put more flowers on. It's just insane. I love everything about it. And I love the sayings on it and all of that. This is just joyous. Listen, I know we're having a lot of problems with the forum, and nobody's more upset than me about this. If you have pictures you'd like me to show, send it to my Gmail, okay? alexandrsn @gmail, okay? And then, yeah, Chrissy said this to me, and we're going to swing back to Sequoia Sampler. And what she did was she said, this is so filled with little mysteries in it, or like little secrets. I love it when quilts have secrets. And then the backing, she pieced it together, log cabin, symbolizing hearth and home. And so I will piece backs together all the time. And the reason Christy can get away with it on this particular quilt is because it's dark. It's not like there's any white or anything. So, and I always check out the quilting. Always check out the quilting. That's so important. Okay. Linen thread, huh? Variegated thread. Paul, I just don't like okay, Paula Reed would use variegated. Ricky uses variegated. The one thing you can do is if you're auditioning threads and you're not sure, just unwrap some and throw it on the quilt and see what it looks like. I'm sharing what I do. No, I don't win prizes in quilt show. It's just what I do. Okay. So Pauline says, yeah, she uses her embroidery machine designs for quilting. It's so easy. Good design is good design, and it across the board in all crafts, period. All right. In my quilting lecture, when we went to Mexico, I found these plates or bowls or something. I think they were blue, and they had feathers, like quilting feather designs on it, you know? And you'll see things in tiling that represents, quilting. So good design is good design. All right. I am going out to work because Lilo's never seen The Office. And I look forward to seeing you Friday. I have no idea how chaotic it'll be here. And then Monday we'll talk about binding. And you know what, you guys, I might even actually bind a little sample for you because I know I can talk about my philosophy and all of that, but I think I'm going to run through actually how to do it because we do have newbies here. Newbies, we love you. We want you here. So Jane says she always has her quilting thread blend into the fabric. Yeah. Oh, Valerie, I have a brand new 770 Bernina. Valerie, take the lessons. Take the lessons. And if I have influenced you to open your pocketbook to buy a machine, you need to get a hold of me immediately via my Gmail and I'll get you a $100 coupon. If I didn't influence you, then that's not fair. All right? And we're all working on each other. It's been a tough year, you know, but I have to justify this sewing room first. So, okay, you guys are fabulous. And I, again, thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. I've received many lovely emails, and I will tell you right now, you have saved me. And John, do you have one question, friend?
Paul Crowell was
Yeah,
asking
Paul.
about variegated.
I just talked to Paul about that. Yeah. Okay. And so, oh, good night, Pauline, for me this morning. Let's get going. It's time for iced tea. Let's get this place pulled together. And we'll take pictures and I'll share with you, okay? Have a good one.